Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our Astro Yoga Chats. And this is episode 2. Natalie and I are going to dive a bit deeper into the chakras and the planets and yoga poses and how these elements are connected and how we can use the information of chakras and information of planets to help us understand more about ourselves.
Yes, I think it's a really very interesting concept. And we also have like a little map for you to show how it works.
Let me put my screen for all of us.
Shortly explain what the chakras are.
There you go.
Yes. So the chakras are energy vortexes, right? They're in the body, not really in the physical body, but they're more like in the energetic body. So we have the first chakra, Muladhara, and it equals Saturn. So first of all, we'll go through all of the 7 chakras, but today we'll dive really deeply into Saturn and Muladhara. And I have to mention, of course, Saturn's colors are dark blue and black. So, we have this theme going on today. Yes. Good. So, Kate, you want to go on with the second chakra?
Sure, of course. So then we have Svadhisthana chakra. And, as Natalie mentioned, each episode will be a different chakra with the planet, right? But here's just the overview. So we have Svadhisthana chakra, and that's with Jupiter and Venus. We have the Manipur chakra, which is located around your belly, solar plexus, and that's Mars. We have Anahat chakra, which is right in your heart center, and that's with Venus. Vishuddhi chakra, which is in your throat, that's Mercury. Ajna chakra, which is directly in between your eyebrows, and that's Sun and the Moon. And then the Sahasra chakra is the crown above your head. And as Natalie mentioned, chakras are these energy centers that we all have, and we all have them within ourselves. Now, while you can't necessarily dissect the body and find these chakras, they are vortexes of energy where sometimes in your life the energies are moving and they're flowing, and then sometimes these energy centers are not so active. So when we talk about rising energy, we talk about Kundalini rising. We talk about activating all these different chakras in a way where they're balanced within us. Yes. I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a moment.
And I also want to explain, so it's not the only model there is. So there is the model, like we say, the right eye would be the sun, the left eye is the moon, but it also exists. The 6th chakra is the sun, the 7th, because moon is always intuition, is like the moon. And then there's also a system where they start with the inner planets, so the planets we can see with our own eyes. And then the 6th one would be Neptune, because the 6th chakra is about intuition, also like visualization and all that stuff, seeing. And the 7th chakra would be Uranus, but we focus more like on the little map that we showed. And yes, so I would say we plunge into the first chakra. And Kate, you as the yoga specialist, you're gonna give us like the basics on the chakra, and I'm gonna dive deep into Saturn then.
Sure. So Muladhara chakra, it can be pronounced Muladhara, Muladhara. So if you've heard it in both ways, they're not tomato. So, potato, so it's just depends on if it's a Northern Indian dialect or the Southern. So Muladhara chakra, Mula means root and Hara means center. So this is like your root center of your body, and it's located 1 inch below your tailbone. And I want you to just imagine, if it's your root center, just imagine like the roots of a tree and how these roots like go all the way deep down into the earth and how they stabilize you. So this chakra is your foundation, and it's typically formed in your body when you're in your mother's womb. So this energy already is happening before you even physically take your breath on this planet. Muladhara chakra is considered to be your tribal chakra. It's like your foundation of your family and your place and how you feel like you belong. The way that you grow and the way that you plant yourself will depend. A lot of times you can see, let's just say Natalie and I will talk about deficiencies and strengths within the chakras. But when you don't feel your footing, you don't feel your place, you don't feel like you belong, this might be an energy center that you focus on to grow and to, it's not just the fact that you're growing it, but that you're aware of it. So think of these chakras as we're talking about it, that you don't have to fix anything, but instead become more aware of it. So in Tantra, which is a style of meditation and yoga that I study, we use yantras. We use these symbols to help us find these energy centers. And the yantra for Muladhara chakra is a golden cube. The earth element, it's the earth element because that's like the foundation. And it has to do a lot with your legs and your feet, which makes sense because it's the way that you walk on this planet. It's like your foundation in life. So you can imagine already, I would love to talk about some yoga postures too that you can use to activate your Muladhara chakra. But before I go there, I'm going to turn it over to Natalie, who's now going to talk about Saturn and how Saturn's energy and Muladhara energy are connected.
Yes. Maybe I want to say also to the first chakra, it is about the right to exist and really like living in your body. So when we're spiritual, we often talk about our soul and incarnation and all of that, but we live in a physical reality. And we really need to, take care of this body. So it also is about taking care of body. And Saturn moves into this area because he's the timekeeper. He is the Lord of karma. So why do we come here? He's the Lord of old age, growing old. And I mean, a lot of things he's called the great malefic, so the bad guy, and he has a lot of things that are harsh about him, that are difficult about him, but I will of course also mention some good things. But it's with Saturn, it's about slowing down things. And we talked about before we started recording, we're both in a Saturn transit and it feels frustrating. Everything slows down a lot. I often say Saturn is like the strict teacher. I mean, Jupiter is actually the teacher, but Saturn is also a teacher, and he's a strict teacher. He comes by every 7 years into every house on every planet, and every 7 years you have a major test in your life. And he's going to say, well, you passed, you learned your lessons from the past 7 years, or you haven't. So the next time in 7 years, it's going to be even harder. So he's really strict. And he's about boundaries. He's, sometimes also about depression. He's about setbacks and distraction, things falling apart, solitude, loneliness, fear, limits. And like with the topic of fear, it connects again with the Muladhara chakra, because people who don't have such a strong or well-turning first chakra, they are also a lot in fear, like fear for their life. It's about survival, not feeling safe in their body. And well, let's say something good about Saturn too. So, in many traditions, he's the father, so he has an authority. And people with a strong Saturn, they really can obey rules. They are very reliable. I, for instance, have Saturn on my rising. So, I'm always on time and stuff like this. People can really work hard, until something works. And Saturn is about long lasting results. So Jupiter, when he comes by every 12 years, he brings something, in this one house. But for Saturn, you have to work a long time. And once Saturn comes by, then you get really a long lasting reward, or you move up in your status, in the society. It's about stability, it's about discipline. And with the body, it's interesting. So if you have a strong Saturn, sometimes, people are thin. I'm not so thin. I have Saturn on a rising. I also have Mars on my rising. So I have a lot of muscles too, because Mars is muscles. But usually, you know, people with Jupiter in the first house, they can put on more weight, and Saturn is like limiting it. And as for the body parts, he rules everything that's hard, like, you know, your bones, your teeth. He is about knees, and with diseases, it's more about arthritis, osteoporosis, and he also rules land and property as well.
And do you think, Natalie, you know, talking about the Muladhara chakra, and it's our foundation, right? This is like our place of like where we feel like where it's like what you said, was like where we belong, we exist, right? Do you feel too that because Saturn gives this energy for us to be, it's like a very humbling energy, because no matter how much you might want to go from here to here, like depending on where Saturn is right now, like as you mentioned, Saturn is like right above me, right? So like everything in my life right now feels hard, feels really, really hard.
Yes.
And I'm questioning my foundation. I'm questioning what I've been building and what I've been, you know, what I've been like creating in my life and where I'm standing. It's not making me feel like I need to blow things up and change, because that's also not necessarily a good foundation to have. Like I'm not trying to blow up my foundation, but I am trying to have patience. So is Saturn a lot about patience?
It is. And I would also say, like, you know, so we said it starts the development of the first chakra in the womb, and then also like the first year, like until you're like 12 months old. And it has a lot to do with, you know, do you have stability in the family? Are you connected with your mom? Like, do you feel safe when you're hungry, you're going to be fed, and, you know, when the diapers need to be changed and all of this. And people who have like a stable family life, the way they grew up, they can also offer stability to other people. But if you haven't experienced it as a child, you know, like very often you see that there is a problem with Saturn in their chart. So Saturn is actually exalted in Libra, because it's about knowing the rules in society, and you can be diplomatic. And Libra is also the judge, like this was correct and this is not correct, you know. And it's at fall or in a very weak spot in Aries, because Aries is all about me, you know. So I think, you know, a very stable family life and you know, the first years as a child are really important to make the first chakra be strong, and then also live the good qualities of Saturn. Yeah, it's really the reality we live, and without this first chakra, also the other ones, you know, they're gonna suffer in a certain way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just to remember that your first chakra, it rules your legs and your feet. So, you know, the way that so let's just say, because let's say some people are like, well, I didn't have such a great upbringing. You know, I didn't have such a great family life. Like, what is it? What does that mean, that I'm always not going to have a good foundation? No, that doesn't mean that at all. Because now as you're consciously moving in your life, stepping into your life, right? Every step that you take creates your path and your reality. So start to think too, that just in case, if you feel that, well, my foundation wasn't great, well, now you can start to pack your foundation with energy that you feel is that you deserve, you know, like, but I think it's good to know, just in case, if you didn't have a great foundation and you're wondering why you have these things that are happening to you, or this energy that's happening to you, it could be because your Muladhara chakra is not stabilized, or it's not developed in a way. But it doesn't mean that it can't be developed. It doesn't mean that you can't.
We can support it with the yoga poses, for instance, or like with affirmations, like, you know, I feel safe in my body. I feel safe in my life. I have a right to be here. I have the right to exist. I have the right to have my needs met. And, like when I was in my yoga teacher training and we talked about 9/11, the teachers were saying like, that day, because everybody felt unstable. I mean, it was a catastrophe, and they did a lot of standing poses and seated poses. So maybe another time we will actually demo those poses. But Kate, why, not just give us a few ones that, people can practice if they need that chakra to be supported a little bit more?
Sure. One yoga pose that is excellent for your Muladhara chakra is called Tadasana. Tadasana is where you're standing, your feet are together, and you are lifting up from your legs, not from your knees per se, but from your legs, from your thighs. Then you lift up from like the energy from the rooting down, and you lift up. And then you draw the navel slightly back, you draw your shoulders back, your arms are along your side with your palms facing forward. And the crown of your head shoots straight up. And Tadasana is, you would think it's such an easy pose because you're just standing there, right? But to grow from your ground up and to elevate yourself from the ground up takes your focus and concentration. So Tadasana is a great pose. And if you wanted to elevate that, you could also grab a yoga block if you have one, put it right between your legs and squeeze into the yoga block. And then that's going to activate your pelvic floor. It's going to activate your legs, and you're going to feel Muladhara chakra even more. So that's one pose that you can do. And now I'm going to give you another pose, which is a little bit more, it's going to mess up your balance, but it's going to be challenging. Warrior 3, Virabhadrasana 3. Warrior 3, I wish I had a visual now that I'm thinking about it so we can show it, but next time, we're growing, we're learning, we're building our foundation here. So, but Warrior 3 is when you have one leg back, your chest, your torso is parallel to the floor, and you're standing on one leg. And you can just imagine now that your torso is leaning over, your back leg is reaching long, and your standing leg is rooted from the earth, and you're lifting up. So that already will activate your Muladhara chakra because you need to find your balance. I'll give you one more pose because now I feel it's unfair that we don't have visuals or we're not doing this to show you. But to activate your Muladhara chakra, if you come into camel pose, which is a slight bit of a back bend, and you're on your knees and you're leaning back, so you're going to get into that thoracic spine, but you're pushing also, your chest is lifting up and your hips are gently pushing forward. And you're going to feel all this energy from the ground coming up and allows you to lean back. So the way that you can become more aware of these energy centers within your body is just like we practice yoga, there's a physical aspect to it. So it's not just about talking, and it's not just theory. Like, we want to share with you as much information that we can, but then for you to go and practice it. So Natalie, can I give everybody a little bit of homework? Do you think that's okay?
Yes, we can do it. And I also want to say, I love Paschimottanasana, when you're sitting straight with your legs forward and you're folding forward, because you're really touching that part of the body and you feel it on the ground. And I also want to say, there's many more, like in astrology, we call it remedies. So for instance, wearing dark blue or black on a Saturday, Saturn's day, would be good for grounding. Or you can also wear like an amethyst, jewel or stuff like this. And then also say a mantra for Saturn. So there's really many ways you can dive. You can even look at a yantra, right? And stuff like this. So there's many ways where you can support the first chakra. And, please, Saturn, Shani in Vedic astrology.
Yeah.
What's the homework?
Okay, well, that's part of the homework, is how can you please Saturn? Okay, so if Saturn is such this malefic planet, and it's a very humbling experience of having Saturn looming over you, one homework is to think about Saturn and ask yourself, how can I please Saturn? And as you mentioned, maybe it's through the colors, maybe it's on Saturday, Saturn's day,
being on time, right? The timekeeper, like being like very aware of time. Time is precious. Don't let people wait. It's a discipline and stuff like this.
Mhm. So think of ways that you can please Saturn. Think of these yoga postures, and it doesn't have to be the ones that we mentioned. Maybe there's other ones where you're using your feet, you're using your legs on how to activate energy in your body. And even if you're just going to go for a walk, or maybe you're walking right now, listening to us, feel your feet in the ground, take each step, take your time. So this homework is going to be physical, energetic for you now to also think of, what is your relationship with your Muladhara chakra? What is your relationship with your foundation? Do you feel, right? Do you feel like you belong here? Like your foundation is okay? Like you exist, like that is it solid?
Or do you feel safe? And maybe I would even go further, Kate. How about, you leave us a little comment underneath, like, how do you, practice Saturn and the first chakra? What do you do yourself to ground yourself, to feel safe, to feel like, I have a right to be here and exist? That would be really interesting for us to read.
I love that. So that's the homework. And, so that's the homework. And thank you for joining us on this episode of diving into the chakras and to the planets. And Natalie and I, well, anything else, Natalie, before we sign off?
I think that's it. And, of course, next time we'll talk about the second chakra and Jupiter.
Yes. And so thank you so much for being here on our Astro Yoga chat. And we will see you soon.
Namaste.
Namaste. Bye.